Hello guys, welcome to Bugs in Code. The problem that I'm going to explain today is frogs and jumps. But before that, if you are new here and a person who likes stuff related to coding, then you can subscribe the channel so that you get notified when I push a new video. Okay, so let's get started. Here is the problem. And the problem says that there are n frogs on one side of pond. So we have a pond and here we have some frogs and each of these frogs wants to cross the pond and wants to reach the other end. Okay, and in order to cross the pond it is going to take help from this leaf, so it is going to jump to a particular leaf. After that it is going to cross the pond. Okay, now what is the rule for jumping? So if I have a frog for strength k, so it is first going to jump to the kth leaf, after that 2k, after that 3k, and so on. Fine. Now we have to tell the number of leaves that will not be visited by any of the frogs when all frogs have reached the other end of the pond. Fine. Now an example is given here. Let me explain the example. We have four leaves. Okay, and currently frogs are at like this side of the pond and they wants to reach this side. Okay, fine. Now the first frog has a strength of 3, so it is first going to jump to the third leaf. After that it will cross the pond, so it will be something like this. Fine. After that we have a frog with strength 2, so it will first jump to the second leaf, after that the fourth leaf, after that it will cross. So these two will be visited. After that we have a frog with strength 4, so it is directly going to jump to the fourth leaf. After that it will cross. Fine. Now in this whole process you can notice one thing, that there is one leaf which is not visited, so the count is going to be 1 and hence 1 is our output. Now I hope you guys are clear with the problem statement. Let me talk about the approach to solve the problem. So the approach is quite simple and straightforward. Let me take 10 leaves. After that we are going to have 3 frogs, 2, 3 and 4 strength. Okay, fine. So let me write the 10 leaves: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. These are the 10 leaves. Okay, first we have a frog of strength 2, so it will first go to this leaf, after that this one, after that this one and then this one. Fine. After that it will cross. Okay, now we have a frog with strength 3, so it will first go to this leaf, after that this one, after that this ninth leaf, after that cross. Okay, now we have one more frog. It is first going to jump to this leaf, after that this leaf, after that it will cross. Okay, now we are done with all the frogs. All the frogs have reached the other end. Okay, fine. In the whole process there are three leaves which are not visited, which is the first leaf, fifth leaf and the seventh leaf. Okay, now I hope you guys are clear with the approach with something that I have written here. Okay, fine. Now let me write the pseudocode. So pseudocode will be something like, for each frog, for each frog. But before that, we are going to have a visited array which is going to keep track of each leaves which is visited by a frog at any point in time. Okay, so we are going to have visited array. The size will be the same as leaves which have the number of leaves. Okay, fine. The number of leaves. Again, for each frog, we are going to start a loop from frog I equals to k, and k is the strength and I smaller than equal to leaves, because I don't want any frog to go out of bound for this array. And after that I equal to I plus k. Okay, fine. So now here I am going to simply visit the current leaf. Okay, so this is basically jumping to every possible leaf. So for each frog I will jump to the leaves which are possible and I will visit each leaf. Fine. When this loop completes, then in my visited array I will have all the leaves stored which are visited, and the leaves which are not visited will be having value as false. Okay, fine. So at last I am simply going to check each value. For each value, each value in visited array, I am going to check if my value is false. If my value is false, then simply increment the counter will be initially 0. After that it will keep incrementing and at last I'm simply going to return counter. Okay, now I hope you guys are clear with the pseudocode as well. So let me show you the code. On the left side, I have implementation in Java, and on the right side, I have implementation in C++. Fine. So this is the code. As I said, I'm going to have a visited array. After that, for each frog, I'm simply going to run a loop, which is going to check each possible leaf the frog can jump to. And after that, we are going to visit that leaf. Okay, fine. Same thing we are doing here, and after that we are going to start a loop I equals to 1, because it is following one based indexing. And after that we are simply going to like check if visited is false, then we are going to increment the count. At last I will have my unvisited leaves. Fine. But what this condition is about, this is the question you are going to ask me. Okay, fine, so let me explain the condition as well. If we have a case like this, if I have something like a frog array which is having the frog string, so like 222 and so on up to 100 times. Okay, fine. So each time I'm going to perform the same task. Like if I have some leaves, so it is again and again going to visit at the same leaf. Like, okay, so if I'm done, then again I'm going to visit it, the same leaf. But the question is, if these are already visited, then why to visit them again? So in order to avoid this thing, like the same work again, we are going to simply write that condition. Like if it is already visited, then if it is already visited, in that case we are simply going to continue, we will not do the same task.